Hello and welcome to Season 10, Episode 111 of the Cartridge Club's Game of the Month podcast, where we bring together members of the Cartridge Club community to discuss our monthly playthrough. If you're new to the club or are interested in participating in future months, please join our community Discord or follow us on Twitter at Cartridge Club NA. We love to see the hashtag Cartridge Club used whenever you talk about one of the games we've selected. I am Captain Algebra, and on behalf of our rotating pool of hosts, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Additionally, on behalf of the entire Cartridge Club community, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon club backers, Joel Boyce, Kevin from Buried on Mars, Base Guy, Caleb J. Ross, and Round 2 Gaming. Thank you all so much. You're such an integral part of why we do this each and every month. And this month, we played one of my favorite games of all time, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Joining me to talk about this game is Wes from Gaming Off the Grid.
Yeah, glad to be here. Blessed. Thank you, Captain, for having me on. And this is one of my favorite games of all time. You know, it was right in that pocket when I bought my PS2 with Madden 2003, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So here we are. Let's go.
Awesome. We got Joe from SNES is Life.
Hey, how's it going, Captain? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Vice City, an amazing game, man. It's one of the tops.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle.
Hey guys, good to be back. It's been a while, but finally made it to episode 3 here. So I was worried that I was only stuck on GameCube Mario games, so I'm glad to talk about something different for a change. But yeah,
Awesome.
love the GTA series, so let's go.
Good. Glad to have you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And this is the first time I've hosted this podcast, so everyone go easy on me. I'm doing my best. All right, so let's go ahead and start with what is your experience with the game? So let's start with Kyle. Why don't you share your experience?
Okay, yeah. I got this not right away. I think I got it later in 03. I had to be 17 or older to get it, so it was just at that right time. One of my first PS2 games. I got it a few months later. I didn't know too much about the game originally, other than what I was seeing in the magazine. Like, oh, okay, it's kind of a city you can roam around in and do nefarious things. And yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I felt after the first 2 to 3 hours playing it, I could go out and do this in real life. And maybe not a good influence, but yeah, I've played that quite a bit on PS2, Xbox, and throughout the years. So lots of experience with it.
Awesome. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, so my buddy Matt, growing up, I went over to his house and played it for the first time, and he had the GameCube version, I believe, and we played it for about 2 or 3 hours, and I was like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. And at the time, I didn't own any video game systems. Like, I was broke as a joke. My wife and I had just had our first child, like July of 02, and so this was fall of 02 when the game came out. And that Christmas, basically, I did what a lot of people did. And I was like, look, honey, I bought a PS2, but it's not just a PS2, it's a DVD player. we're moving on to the future, you know? And then the only game I bought for it at the time was Vice City. And oh my God, I just spent every free moment I had playing that game, much to her chagrin.
Nice. And Wes.
Man, it was, you know, I think everybody's mind was blown. If you played Grand Theft Auto 3 in the moment, in the time, you were like a situation. Best video game you'd ever seen. It was mind blowing. But I didn't own a PS3 at that, or PS2 rather, at that time. I was always a generation behind. And then Vice City came out. And there was that bonding with a character of Tommy Vercetti that you didn't have in GTA 3. GTA 3 didn't really have a main character. You kind of just had to like make your own way, right? You had to like say, I'm the guy in GTA 3. But in Vice City, you were Tommy Vercetti, dude. That was you. You became you. And it was the next step, and they were all in the same engine, the same sandbox, and all that stuff. But It was my third PS3 game. I bought a PS3 with Madden 03, with Metal Gear Solid 2, and then I believe in October of some time of 2020 or 2002 rather, Vice City came out. It was fire.
Awesome. Yeah, so I was saying earlier before we started recording that I honestly don't remember why I got the game. I'm thinking I had GTA 3, like I had gotten that from a buddy and played it briefly, and I was like, oh, it's a fun game. Let's check out Vice City. And I was hooked from the moment I started playing it. I just feel like the Vice City and like the 80s style is just like perfect for a GTA game, and I absolutely I loved it. I only play the PS2 version. I think recently I've gotten the Xbox version and the definitive edition on PS4, but I've always been playing it on PS2. When you guys played the game, what did you usually play it on?
So originally, like I said, I first played it on my buddy's GameCube, but didn't, a couple hours. And then I had a PS2, and I have it for the Xbox, the original Xbox, which I think wins a few points over everything else because you can have your custom station in there. It'll play the MP3s off your Xbox for you. But I played it on my PS2 just to really relive the glory days. So, all PlayStation 2 for me.
Yeah. Joe, I got a shit on your taco here. I don't think Vice City's on the GameCube, bro.
Are you sure? I could be totally wrong.
I'm about a fucking 100% sure.
Okay.
Here, bro.
You doesn't sound like a GameCube game. Yeah.
No.
I was confused as well.
Maybe it was on a PS2 then. I know my buddy had it.
It was a long time ago, we forget.
It was a long time ago.
So, and Wes, you played on PS2, right?
For sure. My brother had a GameCube, but I had the PS2, and I felt like the cool kid in school, man. It was a weird time, man. It was, us as collectors, we look back now, and the GameCube was really awesome during Gen 6. But I feel like a lot of us that grew up with the NES and the SNES and the Genesis, we wanted something different, and Vice City was that different thing. It was that anti-Mario, anti-family friendly. You're playing a game that your parents wouldn't want you to play. It was like that perfect game to pair with the WWF Attitude Era. Like, I'm banging hookers in a car. I'm going on rampages. It was just a staple of the time, and if you didn't live through it, you don't know what it felt like. You had to live the moment. You can go back to it in 2022, and it doesn't deliver quite what I think we all felt at the time.
Yeah, like I said, originally PS2 for me as well. I still do have that the Xbox version, which is technically superior, but for the time I never got used to the trigger driving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, that's standard,
right?
But and the custom soundtracks you can put on the Xbox version, and it even looked a little bit better. But I always preferred that PS2 version for some reason. I don't know why, even though Xbox was the superior version.
It was the gabagool. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But
yeah, I also did that. I think for its 10th anniversary, it was released on mobile and for tablets. So I did try that. Okay. It worked. Never played too much of it, but yeah, recently been doing that definitive edition, I guess they called it. It did have a rough launch, but and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but I did like the improvements that made. So definitely some graphical improvements, but mostly the controllers and those improvements there. So yeah, I played a few different versions of it. Always fun.
Good. Yeah. So this month I played PS2 again, just because it's what I've always known. I should have probably played it on Xbox or the definitive edition just to play something different, but I love the PS2 version, so that's what I had to do. What are your experiences with any of the other games in the series?
Not a lot. I played Grand Theft Auto 3 on my PC back in the day, and then I own 4 and 5. Haven't actually played either of them. And I played San Andreas. I remember being really excited when San Andreas came out, and I played it for probably the whole day when I picked it up. and it just could not hook me the way that Vice City did. And I put it down, and I never picked San Andreas back up.
All of the above, actually. Yeah, after Vice City, that was the first one, but then I went back and did 3 in the PS1 versions, which aren't very good. But yeah, San Andreas. I even have the PSP versions, Liberty City and Vice City Stories. 4, its expansions. 5 again for the PS4. So yeah, but despite all that, Vice City still, even though it's a little more dated at this time, still has that atmosphere that I think even the later ones didn't touch. Just that neon drenched 80s rock and power ballads and driving through Miami at night. So good.
Yeah, I've played them all, but I have said for a long time on our channel, Gaming Off the Grid, that you got about one Grand Theft Auto game in you in a lifetime. And I believe when I say that, you become immersed in one. And Vice City is mine. I've played 3. I played 1, 2. I played 4, 5. Vice City was the one where I felt like I was Tommy Vercetti. I've beat 5. I have not beat 4. I have beat 3. Have not beat 1, 2. There's something about the game that sucked me in. And I think it was what Kyle talked about. You know, that 80s, that new wave feel, that Cocaine Cowboys type of feel, that Scarface tie-in, which a lot of people don't really realize that game was really ripping off Scarface. Come on, that's what was going on.
Big
And
time.
Heavily inspired.
yes, and I connected with that game at a level that I was going to 100% that game, and the rest of the games, although they're all good, and I love Rockstar. I play table tennis Rockstar, and you got, if Rockstar's on it, I'm playing it. But Vice City was different, man. It was a game that just you connected with, and you know, a lot of people like dive into the rock and roll Guns N' Roses shit that's on there. I loved the like new wave stuff that was in the game. From a musical standpoint, the Scarface tie-ins, that was the apex of the series. And is it tough to go back to today? Kind of.
Yeah, it is.
But it the impact it had at me at the time, you know, it's unprecedented.
Yeah. So so Vice City was the first one I beat, and then I went back and I played 3 a little bit. I never finished it until last year. I think I finally sat down and beat it. I loved Vice City so much that when San Andreas came out, I grabbed it day 1, started playing it, and I got stuck on a flying mission where you have to like blow all these cars up and stuff, and your fuel is constantly going down. And I remember as a kid, I kind of had a temper at times, and I tried that mission like 5 times, and I got so pissed. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't break a controller because I was livid. And like I look stuff up on the internet, I'm like, how do you do this and stuff? And I couldn't do it. So I put it down. I came back to it, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, got to that mission again, couldn't beat it. So I put it down again. So that's one of my goals, is next year to go back and finally beat San Andreas, because I love the game other than that. 4, I played a lot of, but I never did finish it for some reason. And then 5, I haven't touched because I want to beat 4 first. And 1 and 2, well, I tried to go back to 1 this past year, and I just couldn't do it. Which is, I don't feel good saying. Wes knows this. I hate the term when someone says something hasn't aged well. It kind of pisses me off when someone uses that. So I'm not going to say that.
No, come on.
No,
Come on, Captain.
I'm not going to say that. Because,
come on.
Nope,
Come on.
when something ages, it needs to change. It hasn't changed. It's the same as it was when it came out. I try to put myself in that mindset of when a game came out, and I tried with that game, and I'm like, it just isn't fun.
Yeah, because
So-
it didn't age well. That's why.
I will not. I
teabagging.
will
I
never
just
admit
teabagged
that.
you, Captain.
Nope, I will never say that. Just
You
wait.
can.
This next year, I'm gonna go play it, and I'm gonna praise it Okay, Wes. Just
All right.
wait and see. But yeah,
In
so
San Andreas was that mission? Was it like another RC chopper where you had to
yeah, it
plant
was like
bombs on it?
it was like that. But obviously, I don't
Something
think
you
it.
had to plant bombs on the cars driving through.
I don't think it was bombs. It was like you actually had like a machine gun on the plane, and you could
Okay.
shoot them. But it was like a toy plane. I believe it was. Is Zero a character in that game?
Yes, I
Okay,
think I
so
know which one. That one's a notoriously
yeah.
aggravating mission.
And I still remember the cutscene beforehand. Like you go to his store and he's like locked in a cabinet, and you open it up, and then he explains what happened, and then yeah, you're in this plane and you're trying to blow shit up, and I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
So hard.
So, but I will beat it. I will beat it someday. All
You
right,
can do it.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So let's get into the intro and the story. And I am not a very creative person, so I'm literally going to read the story right from the back of my PS2 copy. So, welcome to the 1980s. Welcome to Vice City, a huge urban sprawl stretching from the beach to the swamps and the glitz to the ghetto, a town brimming with delights and degradation. Having just made it back onto the streets of Liberty City after a long stretch inside, Tommy Vercetti is sent to Vice City by his old boss, Sonny Forelli. But all does not go smoothly upon his arrival in the glamorous, hedonistic metropolis of Vice City. Tommy is set up and loses everything. Sonny wants his money back, but the biker gangs, Cuban gangsters, and corrupt politicians stand in his way. Most of Vice City seems to want Tommy dead. His only answer is to fight back and take over the city himself. So, like you guys said, it is pretty much a Scarface ripoff for sure. But what did you guys think of the story? And did you pay attention to the dialogue and the cutscenes in between the missions?
For sure. It was I felt like GTA 3 was very you had to like make yourself that character because he had nothing to offer. But in Vice City, you felt like you were against the world. You were Tommy Vercetti against the world. And it was a cool era. And it man, you just really felt like you were going to become something. You had a chance to take over the city, and I'll never forget how cool it felt, man. It felt so good.
Yeah, I mean, coming up, like we make all the allegories to Scarface and everything coming over from that. And, like Wes said, in GTA 3, your character had no personality. And in Vice City, they had Ray Liotta doing the voice work.
Yep.
And oh my God, did it just
So good.
that is what pulled you into
Mhm.
that whole becoming the character of Tommy Vercetti. Like the reason that game absorbed you so much is because you had character at that point. You had a personality. You were the tough guy in this town. And just the interactions between you and all of the other characters, the conversations, like you said, the cutscenes and stuff, you sit in there and you almost have to. I mean, I know you could skip them, and after you die and have to watch it for the fourth time, you do skip them. But the first time they come across, you're just like, this is so good. And it really is what gave that whole game its lifeblood. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are great about it, but the voice actors and everything just I'm sure it wasn't the first really professionally voice acted game, but it's the first one in my memory that I was like, holy, the voice acting in this is really, really good.
Yeah, I'll mirror what they said. I was enthralled in the story as well. I had not seen Scarface prior to it, but I always hear the comparisons. So I did see it around the same time I was playing the game, or a little after. I'm like, wow, it's pretty much Scarface's Vice City, the movie, essentially.
Boom.
So, but yeah, I especially early on, because you play it so often, you remember especially that first 2-3 hours when you're still on the first island. There's so many weird and wacky characters, and I don't think the other games, they got some weirdos in there, but Vice City just had a great cast, from the the coke dealer on the ship to the porn star director to just everybody. Yeah, they're all so memorable in a way. It's really
Right.
good, and even cooler too with GTA 3. Some of them were carried over from 3, but it was set 10 years prior to that game. So it's kind of
Right.
cool to see like younger versions of those characters and everything. So
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned Ray Liotta. I recognize the voice. I don't think I ever realized that it was him. But now that you say it, it's like, oh yeah. I loved the dialogue and stuff. But as a kid, I was notorious for skipping cutscenes because I just wanted to play the game. So I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever watched every single cutscene of this game because as a kid, I probably skipped it. And now I've played it so much, I just skip them anyways. I'm sure I did at some point, but did you all watch all the cutscenes every time you play it, or do you tend to skip them?
I mean,
like-
I was so immersed in the game, I did, and I loved the atmosphere of the game. I just felt like it just sucked you in, man. The radio stations, the cutscenes. It was the one GTA game that I will play differently, or I did play differently than I played all the others. You know, a lot of the others you go and you just try getting the missions done, but not that one, man. Not Vice City.
I mean, yeah, I watched all the cutscenes as you play through it. I feel like it's almost necessary for this game because it gives you so much more background and feel on what you're about to go do. And like I said, you die and then you have to rewatch it. So after that, you start skipping it because you can only really stand and watch a couple of those about twice.
Right.
But yeah, I think if you're playing the game, you have to watch them all at least the first time you hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. Yep, I agree with Joe on that one.
All right, so let's get to the gameplay. So Grand Theft Auto Vice City is an action-adventure game played from the third-person perspective. You control Tommy Vercetti, and you complete missions, linear scenarios with set objectives to progress through the story. It is possible to have several missions available at a time, as some missions require the player to wait for further instructions or events. Outside of the missions, the player can freely roam the game's open world and has the ability to complete optional side missions. Composed of the two main islands and several smaller areas, the world is much larger in area than earlier entries in the series, and the islands are unlocked for the player as the story progresses. You can run, jump, drive vehicles, navigate the world. You can use melee attacks, firearms, and explosives to fight enemies. Some of the cool firearms, we got the Colt Python, an M60 machine gun, and a minigun, which I love using the minigun. The game's three-dimension environment allows a first-person view while aiming the sniper rifle and rocket launcher. And in addition, the game's combat allows the player to commit drive-by shootings by facing sideways in a vehicle. The game provides the player with a wide variety of weapon options. They can also be purchased from local firearm dealers, found on the ground, retrieved from dead enemies, or found around the city. So I believe there are 24 main storyline missions. And then you've got your property missions. You can do your assets, which some have to be done in order to finish the story, but some don't have to be. What were your thoughts on like the main missions?
I think we all hate the RC helicopter mission.
No, love that one.
I mean,
That's a good one.
that's the one that stands out to me.
I think that one stood out just because you've been playing the game for a while now, right? You've got your kind of groove in. You know how you're driving around because at this point you're on the other island, aren't you?
No, you're on the first mission because it's Avery that you do it for, and there's that big building you got to blow up.
But so the point is you've learned the third person action at this stage,
Yeah,
and then suddenly you're like, okay, I got to go blow up a building, and then it completely changes the gameplay on you. You're like driving this little RC helicopter. You have to go up and down the 3 floors of this building,
and it flies like ass.
It does fly like ass. And the worst part is when you're going up the stairways, you run into the damn wall, and then it just spins you into the other wall, and you're bouncing back and forth like a pin. It's but I remember that mission gave me a lot of trouble back when the game first came out.
The juxtaposition to that mission is the final mission for me. Like, you want to talk about Scarface? You're defending the house. It's the final mission.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it feels so good.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about this RC mission real quick. Okay. So I have to get my
secret is you got to do it a lot, then it's not so hard.
Well, here's the thing. So
you do it 20 times and it's fine.
No joke. I've never failed that mission. The first attempt I ever did way back in the day, I beat it. And so it wasn't until recently I was online and I saw this article with like the hardest missions in games.
Can we just
And
can we
no.
take a pause in the podcast so you can just pat yourself on the back, Captain?
Yeah. Hey, I'm just want to be honest, okay, Wes? Okay? Don't make me mute you. But anyways, I saw this on the list and I didn't understand it. Like you guys say it controls bad, but I feel like it wasn't bad. Like use the R2 and the L2 to turn, right? And then you could push forward to move the helicopter forward. And then you've got, was it one of them, like one button like lifts you off the ground and stuff. Like I would basically like go to the stairwell, hover there, and then just fly straight up and then keep going. You got enemies that you could just like hit them with the helicopter blades and it kills them. That's super fun. But yeah, I never thought it was that hard.
Well,
Kyle,
Joe,
agree with
Joe
you.
and I know. Joe and
no.
I know.
Well, we want to hear from Kyle. I know Kyle mentioned a little bit about like playing it 20 times, but what is your impression on that mission, Kyle?
Well, I'm not Mr. Perfect like you, but it does take a couple tries. But yeah, I feel maybe, you've done it a lot. Yeah, I think first time or two definitely struggle with that. But like I said, when I was playing it, later on the Xbox or the tablet or now the PS4 version, which I think anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the remasters, they actually added more time to it. One of the tricky things with that particular mission is you do not have a lot of time to do that. I find you go to the top first and work your way down.
Yep.
Personally, I think is the way to go. But I swear the newer version added more time. I had zero issues playing it on the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think Cap, what you were saying, that's kind of the way to go. You just a little bit at a time, go up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
It's tricky, but it's not difficult. And again, maybe you got to play it several times. But I didn't think it was super hard, but it is definitely, I think, one of the harder ones in the entire GTA series. But
yeah, well, I'm telling you, that one from San Andreas is way harder.
that one's way harder, yes.
Yeah, because I remember playing that one.
Stuff.
Yeah, I remember playing, that one after Vice City. I'm like, oh, it's a flying mission. I can do this. So, like, I have no problem with the RC helicopter one. And it was like the controls were so different. It sucked. But time, you brought up time. I hate time in video games.
Me as well, bro.
It's just a way to create like artificial difficulty.
Yes.
It's like, because then you rush and you mess up, and that's cool that they possibly added time to the definitive version. I'll have to play that one.
They did, but anyone can correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
Right, because yeah, even when you like can get through that mission quickly, you still don't have that much time. Like you've got to hustle and try not to get shot, because that's always the worst part, is like when your helicopters gets blown up by the guy shooting at you. But some of the other missions, we talked about Avery. He does that. You've got Cortez, and then he's on his boat. You got Diaz, who you kind of come into contact with. Lance kind of joins with you and stuff. I tell you what, when I first met Lance, I was not a fan of him. I just felt like something was going on with him.
Something was wrong.
Yeah,
Lance Vance.
What'd you guys think about some of those characters and stuff?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them you just couldn't trust at that point in the game when they got to you. You just didn't know what to think was going to happen. The game did a great job of like, you were just on an island and it was all you. Let them in, but not too close. That's how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cortez was good. I liked him. Diaz was by far my favorite. Like, of all the other characters in the game, I loved his just crazy antics, shooting the TV, kicking tables over, yelling all the time. Mm-hmm. Voiced by Luis Guzman. Just all the writing for him. I laughed almost every single cutscene he was in.
Yeah. I'm surrounded by dickheads.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by dickheads.
That's my favorite line.
You know what everybody wants? A fast boat.
I think I said earlier, that's a very colorful cast of characters. I love the diner owner. I know he was I blanking on his name right offhand, but kind of that Hispanic stereotype with the mustache. The fortune teller, Cleo, I think was her name. I forget.
Yeah.
But
I say, like, I think is it Miss Cleo? But I'm like, or is that just that lady that was on TV?
could be so many. Yeah, that's definitely a very unique cast of characters. I always liked in that game.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was Danny Trejo did the voice.
That's
of
I was gonna say that had to be
Yes,
Danny
thank you.
Trejo.
Again, like I said
think
earlier,
that's the
the
guy.
voice cast in this
Right.
game is phenomenal.
Yeah, I really like Cortez. He was just kind of down to earth, and never got too crazy. Like you mentioned, Diaz. Diaz was so crazy. He was definitely my favorite character. But I think I liked the Cortez missions more. I mean, plus that's how you met Mercedes, right? And everyone likes Mercedes.
Who doesn't?
Exactly. One of the things about gameplay I really liked is how you just start on that first island and you can't even go to the other island, so they let you really get your bearings, figure it out this island before just opening it up completely. And I remember I didn't even realize that they mentioned like on the radio that the islands the bridges were closed and stuff. Did you guys catch that like the first time you played it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I
think
remember
that's one of the first things you hear when you get into the car for the first time. Like
Yeah.
Hurricane Hermione is.
they talk
Yeah.
about it. I think when you're on your way to the Coke deal that goes bad, like
Mhm.
in that very very first scene. And then I think I heard it later. And I was like, so there's another island, and you have your map and your thing, and I was trying to get over to it, and then you run into the barricades
Mhm.
that say that the bridge is closed.
I know you mentioned Lance Vance. I know you really grow to hate that character, especially later in the game. I know we'll get to that. But if you play the Vice City Stories on PSP, he's in that game as well. And you already go in. He's a crap character in that game, but you go in just already hating him, and they
Mhm.
play to that very, very well. Actually,
Nice.
highly recommend if you ever get to play that Stories. Yeah, it's set before Vice City, so
Mhm.
you'll hate him even more in that game.
I didn't know that was possible. That's
such
awesome.
such a dick.
So, along with the main missions, you obviously have the asset properties you can buy. So you've got Versetti Estate that you can do obviously after you take out Diaz, and then you got the Malibu Club, Phil's Place, Kaufman Cabs, Viceport Boatyard, Cherry Popper Ice Cream Factory, Interglobal Studios, Printworks, Sunshine Autos, and the Pole Position Club. What were some of those asset properties that you could buy? What were some that stood out to you guys?
Probably one of my favorite ones, just for the a little bit of nostalgia and then just the goofiness of it, was the Kaufman cabs. I love Crazy Taxi in the arcades. And that is essentially, I think there's 3 asset missions for each place, basically. So the first 2 for Kaufman, I think, is just basically Crazy Taxi. You're like, go here, get this guy,
Yep.
get him to place X. It doesn't matter if your cab is destroyed, smoking, whatever. When you get there, you just got to get him there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is the opposing taxi company fakes you out, gets you into this closed destruction derby arena, and you have to survive all these cars basically trying to slam you and blow you up. And then the boss car comes in, you got to kill that guy. It's just outlandishly fun. Just a good set of missions, I thought.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
great.
kind of wish for that one where it was more like Destruction Derby instead of just needing to avoid those cars for a certain amount of time. Like, it would be kind of cool if you just had to blow them up and stuff.
So good. Yeah, a lot of GTA games come with built-in Crazy Taxi. That's always a fun side mission. You just hijack a taxi and hey, Crazy Taxi for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, I mean, I approached it like I was trying to get all the small stuff until I could get the Versetti Estate, get the big building. And but I loved it all, procuring it all and owning the city. That was the main thing in this game, is you wanted to own the freaking town.
Mm-hmm.
Every piece of property.
Yes.
Yep.
That you could get. That's what you wanted to do. You wanted to, it painted you into a corner that you just wanted to take over the world.
Yeah. Even if you're not a completionist type person, I think knowing that these pieces are around the city and each one unlocks more and more stories and different things to do, it pulls you into that completionist want. You're like, oh, I have to have all of the businesses and see everything that the game has to offer.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need to own an ice cream company, but I must have it.
Yes,
Yep.
100%, dude.
Exactly.
That Sunshine
I
Autos does
yeah.
open up kind of a racing circuit too. You actually go around and
Mm-hmm.
collect cars, Grand Theft Auto, all the cars. That was a lot of fun to try to hunt
Mm-hmm.
some of those
The
down.
racing circuits get hard too.
You got to use the right car, Joe. You got to use the right
Yeah.
car. So I love Sunshine Autos. That was probably the asset missions I liked the most. I just really enjoyed having that list of cars and needing to find them around the city. Now, most of them obviously have spaces. You can find them pretty easily. There's also some that are completely random and are super annoying to find. I think in the Cartridge Club Discord, we were talking once, the Virgo was always one that was super hard for me to find. But for some reason on my recent playthrough, I found it immediately. One of the things I tend to do is like I tried to buy some assets that had garages. So then when I was driving around doing other missions and stuff, like if I saw a car I knew I needed, I'd grab that, park it into a garage so that when it came up on the list, I could just go and grab it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it helped,
Good one,
especially this time. But there are still some that are just tough to find, that are just annoying. But I don't know. I always enjoyed it. It's not a difficult mission, but they're just kind of fun. And then for the racing missions, the cheetah. Pretty much at Sunshine Autos, I filled up my entire garage in that lower portion with just cheetahs. Cheetahs everywhere. Basically, like if I crashed my cheetah, I ran and grabbed a new one because that car was fast and it controlled perfectly. Like it had such good handling. So that would be my suggestion for the racing missions: is you got to use the cheetah. Was there any particular cars that you guys like to drive around?
Well, Cheetah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, you're great with those. Yeah, that's the best one, I think.
Man, I it's been, what are we looking at? 10 years, 20 years since I played it? Probably not. The cheetah sounds great.
I can't remember what the hell it was called. It was the one that looks like a convertible Porsche, looks like the 911s. And that one I felt kind of like you're saying with the cheetah. The control on that one was really good. And that's something that I think is exemplified in the gameplay. Like all the different cars control very, very differently.
Yeah.
And some of them you discover like you can't use the handbrake in some of these cars because you'll roll.
Yeah.
But on the same token, some of them, just the regular brakes won't help you turn like at all. And some of them it's a combination, and it's a real learning thing.
Yeah. Well, I remember I never wanted to drive a Landstalker or a Rancher because I swear every time I took a turn, boom, just rolls.
Yeah. All the time they'd roll over.
Hopefully it would land on its tires so it wouldn't blow up, but sometimes it did. I really liked the motorcycles. The PCJ 400 or whatever. I loved it, but I would always want to go so fast, and then like you couldn't turn very fast. So then I'd run into something, and there goes Tommy flying.
Yeah. I do love watching
seats on those things were lined with Vaseline. You just slight bump, you're flying.
Yep, you're gone. Joe, you and I were talking in the chat about the driver for the Malibu Club.
Oh, I hated that mission, dude.
All right, so tell us about that one.
That is arguably, in my opinion, the worst mission in the game. You have to. So this is after you get to the Malibu Club. You're setting up the bank job. You've got your safecracker. You've got Phil, the shooter, and then you have to get a wheelman. And they're like, you have to race Hillary around basically the southern portion of the first island. And it's just a big loop, but he makes almost no mistakes. And then as soon as you pass the police station, you immediately wanted level 2. The cops start coming after you. And I think we'll all attest that the people in Vice City are the worst drivers in the planet.
Yes.
So the second someone gets in front of you, hits you, flips you, does something stupid, he's gone and you're not catching him. And I must have replayed that mission 35, 40 freaking times because there's no time limit, but your car is just not on the same level as his. And then, like I said, like the cops come out of nowhere sometimes and hit you. And it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I believe he has a Sabre Turbo and you have like a Sentinel or something like that.
Yeah, you get like a generic Mercedes is what it looks like.
Which I'm not gonna lie, I used to kind of cheat that mission. So I would take my cheetah and park it close by, and then I would get out of that car, get in the cheetah, and beat it. But for some reason, when I was playing it this time, I tried it a couple times, and the car kept disappearing. I was like, how did I get this to work before? So I actually did have to beat it with the Sentinel, which it didn't take too many chances or turn times, just because I've played this game so much over the years. But there was no way when I first played the game back when it came out, I could not beat it with the Sentinel.
Yeah,
there was no way.
Yeah, you're out horsepowered.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that was, I liked the Malibu Club, but I remember getting to that mission, I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, the Malibu was the last set of missions I did.
Yep, I think me too.
It is a fun club to visit, though. You get the village people in there.
Yep.
It is. So I think that covers kind of our favorite missions, least favorite and stuff. Did anyone else have anything to say about missions at all?
I remember one that stood out was you're on the bike and you're jumping from rooftop to roof. This is a little bit later in the game. You're trying to get to a spotlight, which has, well, but that was so much fun just because you're jumping rooftop to rooftop, little narrow windows you got to jump through. That was kind of a tough one as well, but not as hard as some of those other ones we were talking about, but definitely a very memorable one and most fun. So.
Yeah, that was for the film studio.
Yeah.
You're trying to like put the Candy Sucks up on the spotlight.
Yep.
And like you said,
you were like promoing for that, right?
Yeah, something like that. And like Kyle said, that the motorcycle seat has Vaseline on it, man. And you jump these roofs and you don't have much distance to stop before you hit the edge. And the number of times that I would just fall off, or I'd come off the bike and the bike would fly off of the roof. And you're like, well, son of a, now I got to jump back down, go do it again.
Right.
You're stuck on a skyscraper and your bike's down there smoking in the street. Yeah.
It was a frustrating mission too. I agree. That's a good one.
But memorable. Yeah.
It is. That one, it's so much fun, but I felt like the motorcycle was too brittle. Like you said, you didn't have a lot of room to stop. So sometimes like you'd hit something and luckily you would stay in the building, but then all of a sudden your bike's already smoking and you haven't even gotten to the first checkpoint of where the first set of stairs goes down. But then even with the checkpoint, sometimes your bike would blow up or you'd fall down and then you couldn't find another bike to keep the mission going. So it's like, oh, I might as well just fail it on purpose.
Yeah.
But it
I definitely did that. I did that a couple times where I'd fail a mission and the place where I was versus where I had to go to restart, I would just jump in the water and die so I could taxi cab back.
Exactly. But yeah, the porn film studio was definitely some memorable missions and stuff. All right, let's then go ahead to 100%ing the game. So 100%ing the game requires you to, I've got this pulled up because it's a ton. You need to complete all 24 main storyline missions, all 13 gang missions, all 5 phone assassination missions, all asset missions. You need to complete the 5 vehicle submissions. You need to complete the 4 off-road challenges, the 3 RC missions. You need to win all 6 street races, win all 3 stadium events, complete all 4 chopper checkpoints, complete all 4 Sunshine Autos vehicle lists, earn 45 points at the ammunition shooting range, buy all 9 safe houses, rob all 15 stores, complete all 35 rampages, complete all 36 stunt jumps, and collect all 100 hidden packages. That is a ton. Have any of you ever 100%ed this game?
Nope.
I have.
Wes.
Yeah, there you go, Wes.
Kudos to you.
I have my save file still on my old PS2 memory card that has my Madden replays, the whole 9 yards. I still have it. And
wow.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's really fun to go back to put in that old memory card and just see what I was doing at the time. And I went all in on this game. That's where I say you got one Grand Theft Auto game in you in a lifetime. I don't say it like you can't play the other ones. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to go all in on one and really get the hundy. you got one in you in a lifetime, because when the next one comes out, you just want to beat the story.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could rob stores. You know, I was reading this list before we started the podcast. I was like, you could do that?
Yeah, you
Like-
just aim at the clerk.
So much.
Wow. I've missed so much of this game. Now I feel like I need 100% it, but at the same time, I don't want to do all this stuff.
Yeah,
Dude,
my issue.
it's a insanity situation for sure.
Yeah, my issue is you spent 12 or 15 or whatever hours you spent doing all just the main stuff and the asset properties. Some of those side missions are so irritating to me. Like the races are very difficult. The off-road challenges especially are very hard because you have to run that Landstalker around that bumpy course, and again, that thing just rolls on a dime.
Right.
It's just more than I was ever willing to put in. I went, and back in the day, I found the 100 packages because spawning that attack helicopter down at the beach was amazing.
Yeah,
but
well worth it.
Yeah, never bothered to actually 100% everything.
And you shouldn't, dude.
So, Wes, since you are the only one that have done it, do you remember what you got for 100%?
I believe you get. I'd have to go back and look, and I can't remember what it says. But you get a shirt for Tommy Vercetti that says something like, I can't remember, man. It says something like I've beat this game and all I got with this was this shirt, like something. And once I got that, I was so happy. And in this era of my life, I did a lot of stupid shit. Like I went to GameStop and Blockbuster to buy a PSP and a rented SmackDown versus Raw game, so that I can unlock Jake the Snake on a SmackDown versus Raw game. I was like all about 100%ing games. And so I had to get it done. And I'd have to go back and see what the shirt says, but you get this shirt and it's stupid. You look cooler in your suit. But
it's
the shirt's
right.
It's just a white shirt that says I completed Vice City and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
Like
there
that.
Yeah, so that's cool, but I guess you're supposed to get other stuff. So you get 200 maximum health bar, 200 maximum body armor, which honestly at that point in the game,
you don't need
you don't need that. What else are you doing?
Because you're not gonna play it anymore after that.
I know,
dude.
right?
Yeah,
that's a terrible reward. You get auto replenishing ammunition for your weapons, which is cool, but again, something that would be more useful to you earlier. You can double the vehicle strength. You have the ability to recruit 3 bodyguards at the Vercetti estate.
The double vehicle strength is really the only one that I think would be good.
Right. But again, not really useful after you 100% the game.
And the thing is I don't think I played more than 5 minutes after I got the shirt. Once I got the shirt, I was just like, okay.
Done.
Yep.
But, you mentioned a lot of things. I want a brief counterpoint. Once you get going on some of those, you really don't want to stop playing. You get so addicted. Like, hey, I can go and do all these dirt bikes. Like, I really should go, but I really want to deliver some pizzas. And it's just kind of this, you get so caught up in the game that it is a lot to do. But really, once you get going, you get on a roll. It's not so overwhelming, but it is still a lot. Highly recommend the hidden packages, though. Those were always fun to find. And like Joe mentioned, you get that sweet attack chopper if you find 100. That is so much fun to fly around.
The hunter.
And I think for every 10 packages, you do get a firearm delivered to all your hideouts. So save money, not having to, spend money in the ammunition.
Where you can save and get all your stuff back.
Right.
So those are worth finding.
The attack helicopter at some point does start showing up on the military base.
Yeah.
But then you have to go in there and get it, which is
that's
not particularly easy.
That's not very fun when they're all shooting at you as soon as you get on the base. That's honestly the only way I've ever flown it, because I didn't know you got it for the 100 packages, because I've gotten a lot of them, but never all of them. And so, I used to try and sneak on the base. And then sometimes you'd get there and it wasn't even there. And you're like, oh, great. I just ran through all this gunfire for nothing.
I'm not getting out alive.
At the southern point of the first island, there's like a wooden helipad next to the water.
Okay.
And that's where it spawns.
Got it. Well, the next time I play this game, which I play it like every year, or every 2 years. I should probably 100% it just to say that I've done it. So maybe.
I've got a save file, Cap, that I'm at like 89.9%.
Yeah.
In addition to my 100%. But we got one that if you just want to see what happens, you could start.
I don't cheat. I'm not Mega Dan, okay? I play games
Wow.
legitimately. All right. Well, we can't talk anymore about this game without talking about the music.
Okay. I was glad you were. I was waiting to say that I think this is the linchpin of what makes it the best Grand Theft Auto game ever made.
Agreed.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
I think everybody agrees with that
because
statement,
it's the atmosphere it creates. And what I love about what you're bringing up here is I think all four of us have played this game differently because of the soundtrack we played the game with.
I can agree to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So for me, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, I fucking hate 80s rock.
Oh, dude. All right, you're out. Get out of here.
So V-Rock,
That's
V-Rock
Wes
for me,
gaming off the
V-Rock can
grid.
go fuck itself. I don't love
Wow.
the 80s rock music, but we had Wave 10
Wave 103.
Yes, 103.
That was my choice.
Yes, that because I
Good
loved
one.
new wave at the time. I've always been an alt guy. Like I've always been off the beaten path. So you had Wave 103, you had K-Chat, you had, the Flash channel, and then you had V-Rock for those guys that wanted to jerk off and listen to like stripper music. It was, but we could all play the game in our own different way with what we like to listen to. It was so freaking cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wave 103 and 98.3 Emotion with that.
That's a good station. Yeah.
Those
Power
are my two
ballads,
favorite
nonstop.
stations by far.
And I don't know if anybody's looked up how much it costs to get the Vice City box set on CD. It's stupid expensive now. Like that just tells you how crazy the soundtrack was.
Yeah. They picked an excellent soundtrack. Like whatever group of guys got together, guys, girls, developers, and said, let's pick soundtracks. They hit that out of the park.
So my favorite thing in the whole soundtrack is the song I just died in your arms tonight.
Oh God.
But at the very end, the DJ, the song
Wes.
dovetails off and he goes, must have just been something you say. And I've always loved that. And I throw it into episodes randomly, and I know people that watch them have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's my favorite thing in the whole game.
Mhm.
And it all isn't, it's so silly that it's all about the soundtrack.
It is. And that's when you
so
ask
good.
people about Vice City too, though, that is universally almost always the thing that gets brought up. Oh, Vice City, that soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the game itself was also really, really good, but the soundtrack is the thing that stuck with everybody.
Because you spend so much time, there's so much dead time in the game that we don't realize, right? Driving
in
from
the car.
island to island or in the car. And what are you doing? You are listening to this awesomeness of whatever channel meant something to you. There could be somebody on us that was on Wave 103. The other person's listening to K-Chat. Other person's on V-Rock. We experience the game differently than the other person, and you can't recreate that. So it's like your time with Vice City is unique and different than maybe what someone else's experience was.
Right. All right, Kyle, can you talk some sense into these two about what the best station is?
Well, it is V-Rock.
Well,
Thank you.
I
Kyle,
think,
no, Kyle,
but-
you're about to get freaking throat punched.
but yeah, that wave is pretty darn good. I actually
See, it's not pretty darn good. You might want to choose your words differently. It's really damn good.
V-Rock Emotion, because that's where all the power ballads are.
Yeah.
I actually like Flash as well. That's kind of the pop music of its time. Has I think that's the station with like Billie Jean from Michael Jackson. So those are I think a top three in there. But I want to give a shout out to the public radio, Vice City Public Radio.
Oh, dude, because it's a
award-winning
parody.
Maurice
It's a parody
Chavez.
channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those I
There's
think
some
there's like
nonsense on
3 or
that
4
one, too.
episodes that are hosted by Maurice Chavez, award-winning host. but highly recommend those. Those always make me laugh. I like
Yeah,
the episode with the nudist and the
Yep.
priest and
Mhm.
like some housewife. That was, I think, the best episode.
Well, yeah, they're just
Yeah.
straight parodies of what we hear as public radio.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
just
was one of
for
them too
how
that
that
had
one ends. Yeah, because you have the priest would eventually shoot the nudist, like, and the host Maurice like, there's complete pandemonium. There's blood and pubic hair everywhere in the studio with me, award-winning and talented Maurice Chavez. Yeah, so great.
All right. Well, before I announce my favorite, Cartridge Club posted on Twitter, and you had to reply with your favorite with a certain emoticon. And so we'll just look at this real quick. We've got Rocket Sauce went with V Rock. Round 2 Gaming went with V Rock. Kyle, you were on there with V Rock. Stumptown Retro said V Rock. And I said V Rock. So not a single
lot of wrong
vote.
people because it's Wave 103. But
There's
okay,
not
a
a
lot of throat
single
punches
vote
to get.
for anybody else, which I do agree. I have listened to some of these stations here and there as I was like switching to V Rock, and I might have caught a decent song somewhere else. But there is only one station that I listen to when I play this game, and it is V Rock.
Oh,
Literally, like
Captain.
I get
Captain
into a
is wild
vehicle,
style.
and like that is the first thing I do is like, all right, before I even drive, let's switch to the correct station. I mean, you've
Captain,
got
you know we're brothers from different mothers and nothing will break us, but this might be the
This might be-
freaking thing.
I'm just listen to these songs. We got Madhouse, we got Turn Up the Radio, we got Yankee Rose, we've got Working for the Weekend, Bark at the Moon, Raining Blood, I Wanna Rock. I think this was the first time I ever actually heard Bark at the Moon.
More
And
like
now
I
it's one
Want
of
a
my favorite
Cock.
Ozzy songs.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But yeah, what's super cool though is like we have this great conversation about the music, and that just shows you how good it was.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is why a lot of people think this is one of the better GTA games, is because the soundtrack is so phenomenal, which made when the definitive version came out one of the big drawbacks, right? They
Yep.
lost so much of the licensing, so we lost so much of that good music.
That is one of the reasons that if you're going to play this game, you have to play the original on the PS2.
Yeah, 100%,
Mhm.
dude. 100%, Joe.
Once you
I
lose
agree.
those licenses,
I think the little bit of sacrifice you make maybe on modern controls is totally worth it for the atmosphere you can gain with the music.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even go so far as to say I like all music in general, but I wasn't huge on the 80s music, but I would really turn me on to more of the 80s rock and power ballads just thanks to Vice City.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a mini shout out to Vice City Stories. Not as great of a soundtrack, but lots of good songs on that one as
dude, that game, not to like derail us here, but for whatever reason, there's got to be something there because Vice City Stories on PS2 is climbing in price like hard. Like
Really?
that's like a $50,
Keep that
$60
copy.
game right now.
wow.
Damn.
I
think I still need that one.
buy now.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah, it's not
Liberty
even
City
digital
Stories.
on some of the
Yeah, I have
stores.
Liberty City Stories too, but dude, Vice City Stories, it's getting up there,
Wow.
bro.
Well, next convention, I think I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
other
there
than
you go.
Genesis games. I think why I like V-Rock so much though is my dad is a huge classic rock guy. So growing up, oh, nice, Kyle. He's got the Vice City Stories. But yeah, my dad's a huge classic rock guy. So that was always what was on in the house. That was always on in the radio when we traveled places. So it's just like, listening to that in Vice City is just something that kind of brings me back and like good memories of growing up as a kid. So
yeah, I think there's a big part of why, those of us here anyways, maybe connect with that differently. Cause I think San Andreas, we can maybe all agree is a superior game and it offers more. But there's something about Vice City that's more than just the game. It's the atmosphere it creates. It's that 80s. It really draws you into an era, which I felt more drawn into because I felt like San Andreas only drew you in to one aspect of the 90s, and that was the gangster rap aspect.
Yeah.
Vice City, you could feel it all, depending on what you had the radio station dialed into, and yeah, connected with it way more.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't think you can talk about radio either without good old Laszlo. He's kind of
Laszlo.
Oh yeah,
he's in every GTA game up
Yeah.
until
is he? I
3
didn't know
to
that.
5. Yeah,
Wow.
he's the glue that connects the GTA universe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I loved Laszlo and V-Rock. It was just some of the comments he had, and then like talking to other people, like when who was it? Cousin Ed calls in, and he's the former mascot for V-Rock and stuff, and they're arguing about like what Laszlo was doing, and he's like, "You were in band in high school, weren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." Oh, it's so good.
That Laszlo has had quite a career. Just started in rock, then gets fired, then goes to the West Coast to do talk radio, gets fired, goes back to Liberty City to do like more public access, gets fired.
Mm-hmm.
GTA 5, he's in the West Coast again, doing like I don't know, they teamed him up with somebody that he hates.
Mm-hmm.
Poor guy gets fired from every radio station he's been on.
So clearly he's not that good of an employee. He keeps getting fired everywhere.
but he's good on the ears.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is for sure. So before we actually kind of bring our final thoughts together, is there anything else any of you want to touch on that we have not talked about yet?
I mean, I think a big piece for it is, anytime you play a game, you got to take yourself back to the time when it came out. And for me, I remember when I bought my PS2, and it was Madden 03, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Vice City. And it was a very just your mind exploding moment of games could never get better than this. It was so cool. And yeah, we can go back in 2022 and play Vice City for the first time if you never did play it. And you may not experience what we all did back when we actually popped it in for the first time. But when you can, if you can eliminate everything that's happened after and go back and appreciate what was available at the time, it was so groundbreaking. It was the perfect game at the perfect time.
I just like 3, Vice, and San Andreas. There's this connectivity in there, not just with Laszlo, but like some of the radio DJs, they would be later in GTA 3, later in the timeline. They sound older, but they're doing different things. Even the lawyer that's in Vice City would appear in San Andreas. He's hiding out in there. The main character from 3, who's never had a name, but I think they call him Claude, would appear in San Andreas. And GTA 3, Donald Love, he's kind of the entrepreneur. You see a younger version of him in Vice City. So I just like that connectivity, and I think those 3 games really did it well. Expanded a little bit with those story games as well, but yeah, that's a good little mini universe they had going there.
Absolutely.
For sure.
All right, so let's kind of collect our overall thoughts here. So there's 3 things I want you guys to answer for me. And so it's, would you play this game again? I want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. And unlike Curtis, I do allow halves. So you can do a 4.5 if you want to. And then finally, where does this rank for you compared to the other GTA games?
So would you play it again? I mean, we just played it again. So I think we all know the answer to that, right? Like, play this game. And if you've never played this game, you absolutely should play this game. It is like Wes has said a number of times, it is considered by many people to be the best GTA game. The soundtrack, the world, the atmosphere, the characters, the voice acting, it's all top notch. Rating it, I'm going to give it a 4. And if you asked me this back when I first played it, like Wes said, it's a time thing. You look at the GTAs that are out now, and obviously the controls are better, the graphics are better, things work better. There aren't as many kind of holdbacks. But if you go back to when it came out, it blew your mind. You're like, holy, this is top top of the line graphics. The music's amazing. Everything's so good. And some of that going back to play it now, I haven't played it since 2002, 3, whatever. And I go back now, and there's just some things that really hold it back in terms of the lack of control. So I found that anytime you had to do like sniper missions or really get precise aiming, it was almost impossible.
Yeah.
The fact that you just immediately drown in water is frustrating as hell, particularly when a number of missions take place on boats.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, and especially when you're like on a boat and you're not driving it, you're on the boat trying to shoot people, and you take a step over so that you can get a better bead on a guy, and you walk off the thing because the camera angle was awful.
It's one huge death trap, that
yeah.
water. Anything blue is just death. Yeah.
It was super frustrating. Sure, some of the graphics are kind of blocky. I can forgive the graphics. I think the graphics actually still held up pretty decently. Most of my arguments come down to controls.
Mm-hmm.
As far as ranking it amongst the other GTA games, like I said, I've only really played 3, Vice City, and then San Andreas, and it's absolutely going to be the top of that order for me.
Yeah, so I forget the order, but ranking it, I hate giving grades to games. I try to avoid that. I would give it a 4.5. It is so fantastic, but I suppose when compared to something like San Andreas, even though Vice City has a much better atmosphere and story, in my opinion, definitely characters, I did like San Andreas because you could swim, you could climb things, you have kind of a manual aim too. I think it really redefined the controls a little bit. So, and not to mention, it's literally like 3 times bigger than Vice City. So they pulled out all the stops for that one, and you can fly planes actually in that game. You couldn't really in the previous GTAs. You could do the chopper, but planes never worked. Would I play it again? Yes, and probably will continue. I didn't finish my PS4, remaster version, but I might try to do the 100% on that one just for the trophies and stuff. I'm not a trophy hunter myself, but it'd be kind of fun. Looking forward to that. And where it ranks with the other GTAs, I think it's one of the best. I think I would throw it right up there with San Andreas. They're just kind of a good 1-2. The modern one's cool too. I really love GTA 5. Very cinematic. You got 3 characters, hundreds of hours of playtime there, especially when you take it online. There's a lot to do on there too, but it just didn't match that atmosphere, just that personality that Vice City has. So.
Mm-hmm.
I like, we're looking at rating things over a spectrum of time. I think when it came out in 2002, it was the best video game you could have bought at the time in 2002. Over time, looking at it, I would say it probably a 4 out of 5 if we're rating it in 2022, because the controls are very, very, very dated, and you have to like play it for like almost an hour to get yourself back into that space to learn how to play it. On the spectrum of Grand Theft Auto games, as much as I don't like to say this, GTA 5 was released on PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, PS5, and it's still getting new stuff. So I gotta say, this is the second best GTA game of all time. GTA 5 being 1, this being 2, San Andreas being 3, then I'll go San Andreas on down the line. Would I play it again? Absolutely. Actually, had I not been invited, and thank you so much, Captain, for inviting me onto this, I fired up my old save file, not the 100% save file, the 86, 89% save file that I had, because I just wanted to fuck around and find out. And I love it. I still love it. But you got to give it its gratitude that I don't think we would be here today had this game not been so good. And Grand Theft Auto 4, I think, is the Grand Theft Auto that kind of gets left behind because it was more rigid and it didn't have the feel that the rest of them do. But it did a lot of good things, and I think Grand Theft Auto 5. I think Vice City did so well that we're still in this universe now where Grand Theft Auto is thriving and well, and it's a franchise that'll never go away. I hope.
Mhm. All right,
So we'll
so
always see GTA 5.
yeah, right,
It's a blessing and a curse.
Honestly,
Yeah.
if they ever
We
actually
haven't seen
make
anything
it.
since.
right. So would I play this game again? Yes, like I said, I play it almost every year. I love it. I love to go back to it. I get a 4.5 out of 5. I know, Wes talks about grading in 2022. Well, you know me, I don't talk about games aging. Games don't all games age well, okay, in my opinion. So when I grade a game, I grade it based on when it came out because it's not fair to compare it to new stuff because of course technology gets better. So that's why it was nope. This is my turn, Wes. When it came out, it was a 4.5 for me. Nowadays, it's still a 4.5. It'll always be a 4.5. I just love that game. Compared to other GTA games, I mean, I've only beaten 3. I could see where Kyle's talking about San Andreas has so much more to offer, and maybe once I get past that stupid flying mission, I'll enjoy it more. 3 just doesn't have the personality. Like your character never talks or anything. I think we brought that up earlier, and it really knocks it down a little bit. And I need to finish 4 and actually finally get to 5. So for me, Vice City is my favorite because of the whole package. We talked about the music. That's one of the reasons I don't like San Andreas as much because I can't find a station that I just love to listen to. It's almost sometimes I just like turn the music off and I just put my own music on.
No, but dude, San Andreas, what I feel like with that is there are stations where I find a song that I like, but then I'm like looking on the next stations to find another song that I like. There's not just that station you can set it and forget it.
Right, for sure.
Like Wave 103.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Vice City as my favorite. So last thing that I always like to do, and I guess not, I don't because this is my first time hosting, but I've seen other hosts do, is are there any similar style games other than GTA games that you would recommend that kind of play similarly to the GTAs and GTA Vice City?
Man, for me, I think if it's in the Rockstar family, but if you haven't done the Red Dead Redemption games,
that's what I was
you're really missing out. So similar, but so different. And when we're talking a lot about soundtrack and stuff, you're going to miss out on a lot of that, but it's more atmospheric. And if you just like riding around on a horse and having like just a free open world experience. But if you're looking for the crime stuff, I always have thought that the True Crime Streets of LA was pretty freaking cool. Or whatever that game was called. I can't remember, but it was in the same era. That game was good as well, but I'd say Red Dead Redemption.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was gonna go with. Like, of games that I've played that I can think of that play very similar to this. Sure, obviously it's Rockstar, but Red Dead Redemption, in my opinion, there's not nearly enough people playing in the Western sandbox.
Yeah,
like there are almost no cowboy games out there, and Red Dead Redemption did it beautifully. And sure, like Wes said, you're not going to get the amazing soundtrack that you get from Vice City. But what I did find is, as I played the first Red Dead Redemption, at least, that there were some pieces of music that were put in there at moments that had so much more impact.
For sure.
Than what you got from GTAs. Now, again, I haven't played 4 or 5. I can't speak to that. But just... And as far as add-ons go, the Undead Nightmare for Red Dead Redemption is a whole second game.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's so good.
Yep. For sure, brother. For sure.
Kyle, was there any that you had?
Well, yeah. I mean, shoot, how can we keep this under an hour? I do love the open world games, one of my favorite genres, so I could go on for another hour. I'll keep it brief, though. I mean, you talked about, I agree with Red Dead. Shout out to Bully as well.
Oh,
awesome
dude.
Rockstar. Kind of a Grand Theft Auto Junior. Bully's so good. If you liked Vice City though. I definitely would recommend the game that the Vice City is actually based on, Scarface. It's kind of Vice City like, and it's fair because Vice City kind of ripped off Scarface, so they did the same kind of a alternate universe in Scarface. Slight spoiler, I guess. A character dies in the end. This takes place right before that, right before he gets shot in the back. You actually turn around and kill that guy and continue the story. So as I think anyone who liked Vice would like something like Scarface. It's very similar in a way. Maybe not quite as polished. It's still a little rough around the edges, but I think a lot of people would like that. So, but yeah, obviously games like Saints Row, it's Grand Theft Auto, just the wackiness is turned up times 100. Mafia games are pretty good as well. Kind of that. I think the first one's kind of like a 20s era style GTA game. So, Just Cause, I could, go on quite a bit. Shout out to, well, you mentioned Wes mentioned True Crime. Yeah, Streets of LA. That's kind of good. A little bit boring. I definitely like the New York one. It's a little more dense with stuff to do. I think people would like that. And Sleeping Dogs, which is originally going to be part of that True Crime series, but it's set in kind of like a Hong Kong. It's an open world. You do have guns and cars, but it plays out like a Chinese action movie. It's a lot more fighting. Picture something like like the Batman Arkham games, just in a modern urban setting. You're just this kung fu guy. Definitely would recommend that one. Sleeping Dogs, I think, doesn't get enough love. So
awesome. So like I love Vice City, but for some reason I haven't like played any of these games that you mentioned. They're all of them are on my list. Red Dead's next year. I'm going to play both of them. The Mafia games I've heard good things of. The one that I wanted to mention, which I haven't played yet, but I want to play really soon, was LA Noire. I've heard that one is very good. Also by Rockstar. I don't know how similar it is, but I've heard people mention it's kind of similar to GTA.
It's really good, but a little more it's slower because there's a lot of investigation. But it's really good, dude. So you should. And Rockstar game, if I could, as we're bouncing out, which I think is their best game outside of the Grand Theft Auto series that nobody talks about, is Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 is so good and frustratingly hard at points. But Max Payne 3, the story, I think everybody would connect to it. It's really good.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your recommendations. That is going to do it for this episode of the Cartridge Club Game of the Month podcast. December's game, which it is currently right now, is Mortal Kombat. And then January will be Phantasy Star, one of the games that I've really looked forward to playing. I just need to actually get it on the Master System first.
Well, I'm guessing I won't be back for a while with those two games on the docket, but as soon as there's a game that it means something to me, I'd love to be back, and I'm glad you had me on, guys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
once there's new wave, Wes will be back.
Yeah, 100%.
But one of those games.
Right. So again, if you would like to get involved with the club, I'd encourage you to follow us on Twitter at Cartridge Club NA. You can also visit our Discord for all kinds of discussion about past, present, and future games of the month. To those of you interested in supporting the club beyond a review on the podcast app of your choice, I'd like to mention that the club is entirely funded by pledges made from members of our community, and we are extremely grateful to those supporters. And if you're interested in becoming one of them, please look into how you can do that at patreon.com/Cartridge Club. So last thing I want to do before we go is just get some plugs. One of the best parts about these podcasts are the guests and just getting to talk to you guys. So why don't we go ahead and start with Wes? If you could just plug yourself, tell people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Good question, man. Gaming Off the Grid. That's our YouTube handle. We have social media stuff. I don't do any of the social media stuff. So Gaming Off the Grid, YouTube. If you want to fuck around and find out, check us out.
And Joe.
Twitch and Twitter. SNES is life and SNES is life. And I think back in 2017, I started with the goal of playing every Super Nintendo game released in North America. And as far as tonight, as of this recording, I'll be playing my 400th game for the Super
that's awesome.
Nintendo.
Hey.
Not
Check
beating them
out
all.
SNES
Nowhere
is
near
live.
beating them all.
Yeah, but playing them.
But playing
SNES is
them
live.
all.
Oh, hell yeah.
The
And
cream
cool spot is
rises
his
to the
favorite.
top, brother.
there you go. And what about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I guess Twitter, Kyle _325 again, because Kyle on 325 was taken. And YouTube, I'm just Game Time with Kyle. Haven't done much on there, but we got a few videos to post. I think next April will be 10 years on YouTube, but I'm not very active on there anyway, so check that out. But otherwise, yeah, Cartridge Club Discord, I'm there once in a while, not as active on there, but you'll see me in there. So yeah, about it.
Awesome.
Well,
and
Appreciate everybody. Like this
Yeah.
was good brotherhood this whole time.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys being on. I'm Captain Algebra on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I stream typically twice a week. I'm taking a little break from that right now, but similar to Joe doing all of his Super Nintendo stuff, I am slowly trying for a complete Genesis collection, and I'm also streaming every single Genesis game from A to Z. So eventually I'll have all 700 some Genesis games on my YouTube channel. Again, not beating them, but at least playing them and trying to beat as many as I can. I'm also an active member in the Discord for Cartridge Club, and so you can find me there. So again, thank you so much to the guests. We look forward to hearing from all of you soon. Thank you for joining us. CC Unite.